Uh, Happy to have you both here, Hunter. Finally, a chance to meet you. I've covered a number of your projects that you've been in over the years, and Nicole, a couple of yours as well, besides this one. But we are here today mainly to talk about your new film, Nicole, that you decided to get in the director's chair as well as act, Porcelain. So thank you both for joining me before we get started here. Just want to thank you both for taking time out to talk about your film. I was very impressed by it. I didn't. I usually go into these cold, so I don't read much of the press or anything. I just try to go in and cold, and I was very impressed by it. And Nicole, why don't we start off? If you could tell my listeners a little bit in your words what Porcelain's about.
Porcelain's about a young woman and her boyfriend. She gets a call that her estranged father's passed, and she has to go back home to clean up the estate. She had a rocky childhood, and so going back to the house kind of dredges up all this stuff for her. And, she sort of like loses sight of what's real and what isn't. And unfortunately, she brings her boyfriend along for the ride, and he's like, "What's going on?" So it's
Uh,
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
it seemed like a lot of fun, but also a lot of work.
Yeah.
What I've got to ask, what made you want to be both in the director's chair and act in such an emotional role with this?
Yeah, insanity. No, I directed a short film that was like my baby
Mhm.
right before the world shut down. That Hunter was a part of as well. It's called Drift. And after that and like getting through the pandemic, I wanted to try something bigger, and to go a little bit further. And it's a feat, as we all know, to make our own stuff
Mhm.
and get it out there. It's one thing to make it, and the other task is getting it out there for the world to see. So we all know how difficult and challenging it can be, but also how rewarding it can be
Mhm.
when you do it. So you come out of it kind of going like, wow, like I know what I'm capable of, and I've learned so much, from everybody around me and everybody I've gotten to work with. And because I was green going into it,
Okay.
but we've had a lot of experience on set. Hunter definitely is experience and support, and we made a really great film. I'm very, very, very excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, a feature film just after one short is a lot to undertake for a direct for a director. I'm sure Hunter, you've seen it and experienced it. How'd you get involved with Porcelain as well? Was it? Did you have a? I saw you co-wrote it. So did you just get together and come up with this idea? I guess where did the story for this come from?
So, like Nicole was saying, I was one of the assistant directors on her short film Drift, and we just had a blast making that movie. We just had so much fun. And that was an ambitious short film too. That wasn't a walk in the park. Yeah, it was an ambitious project. And Nicole had done other short films and stuff. So, um, kind of like Nicole was saying, she had texted me a photo of a bunch of just really creepy dolls at her family home. It was just like, oh
Mhm.
my God, look at this. And from there, we just were like, dude, like, let's see if we can make a movie out of this. And we have, I don't want to speak for Nicole, but uh, sh we wanted to shoot at her family house
Mhm.
because they were
Selling
so
it.
yeah,
Selling
they were
it,
Yeah.
sure.
selling the house. Sorry. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, like we've got all these creepy dolls at this house, and we could bring the same crew from Drift or most of the same crew from Drift over to the Philadelphia area and just crank out this movie. So it actually happened very fast
Mhm.
in terms of pre-production into production. So Nicole and I had kind of developed the general story, and then Robbie Diaz, we pitched it to Robbie Diaz and Pat Kuznati, two other producers, and from there, Nicole and Robbie and I just cranked out the script, and we brought that drift crew to Philly, and we made the damn movie.
And if I could give you like the timeline, it was February, we were texting, April, there was a script, and we are shooting by, we were in
Yeah.
Philadelphia by June and shooting by July. And
Wow, that
yeah.
is for an indie film, yeah, from script to shoot, that's actually pretty quick.
Yeah.
Especially and I really enjoyed the atmosphere and the locations that you have, and this was your family home, and you used some of the neighbors' houses as well. I noticed. So the cast made up of a lot of people you knew, or did you do a lot of hunting for talent?
Everybody I knew, just because they're from my
Mm.
hometown. And there was only one person I auditioned, and it was Ellen Bosca for the
Mm.
creepy neighbor. And we were like, yes.
Oh yeah, she knocked it out of the
Yes.
park. That was her role from day one.
She
Yeah.
was a great creepy neighbor. I loved it.
And such a sweetheart. So great to work
She
with too. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was wonderful.
I usually find that when people say that, it's like the creepier the person in front of the camera, usually the sweeter the person
Sweetest.
behind behind the camera.
That's valid.
Yeah,
So,
she's great.
so with this, I mean, the underlying theme with it, and it hit home to me, just because of my personal experience in my family, and that is mental illness, not so much on the abuse side, but just handling mental illness. Where did that come from? Did you do research? If you don't mind me asking, is that kind of, have you have experience with folks who were suffering from various traumas and such? Because it was a realistic portrayal. I mean, it was, built up a little bit for horror as things moved on, but there were moments in here where I was like, I've seen that firsthand.
Um, I personally do suffer
Mm,
from anxiety and depression,
mm,
and for most of my life, and so I'm a huge advocate for mental health.
sure,
As far as schizophrenia goes, we all did our research,
sure.
and yeah, we were going back and forth with where we kind of wanted her to be coming from, but
Mm.
we wanted to make as accurate a portrayal as we possibly could. And so we all did our research.
Yeah,
Yeah, and oh, sorry, go
oh,
ahead,
no,
Mark. I didn't
go
mean to
ahead,
interrupt.
Hunter. No, please. Go
No,
ahead.
no, no, no. I was gonna say, and our goal was to portray it as realistically as possible, but also
Mhm.
as respectively as possible.
Sure.
And while mental health and horror definitely is a taboo at times, we really wanted to explore the humanity of not only Elise's character, but also the characters around her.
Mhm.
And for instance, playing Caleb, playing somebody who's dealing with this, that's a side of the story that you don't necessarily hear about as much. But this stuff does affect families, it affects people. And then there's one really telling scene near the end of the film where there's a hotline
Right. Mhm.
that they're trying to reach to receive emergency mental health, and they're on hold for like
Mhm.
forever. And that was something that I think that was Nicole's idea to put that in. And that's just because, like, dude, like this stuff happens to people, and I'm not at all equating mental health with horror, but in
Well,
the context of horror filmmakers, it was an interesting avenue to explore.
Just how hard sometimes it can be to get help and to get the right kind of help.
Hmm.
see, and I know that firsthand. If you don't mind me, I don't mind pointing out my mother suffered from. She was bipolar for many years, and when she was having struggles later in her life, you see in the movies how easy it is for people to get like committed and helped. You like you watch that in the movie,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, it's not that easy. Especially if the person is resistant or know how to talk to interviewers and such, it's really tough. And that's why I appreciated when you put in there about the with the hotline and putting it on hold, because that's an issue. And that's what I love about horror. And I think when handled right with mental illness, horror can really explore some of these things and help the audience experience what people do actually go through. And I think you captured that here very well, especially with your performance, Nicole. How emotionally draining was that? I mean, because there's the scene where she's looking for her drugs, which, by the way, was uh, very unnerving and disturbing, and as it should be. You felt just horrible, but that scene, like you have a number of scenes like that. How tough is that to direct and also put yourself there?
Um, a lot of it's preparation, especially on the directing standpoint and producing standpoint. As far as the emotional stuff, it was a welcome challenge to kind of dive in and go there and be able to deliver. And I was surrounded by a really great team that I could play off of, and we can
Mhm.
explore together, and it was safe. And um, I don't know if Hunter, you feel this way when you're on a movie. You're just like it's a straight adrenaline shot, right? And
Mm-hmm,
you're
mm-hmm.
you're going and going and going, right? Whatever you need to stay awake, you're taking your, my case monsters or Red Bulls and your coffee, and you're on, and then when it's all said and done, you're like, whoa, what the heck just happened? And you're like, I think I'm gonna sleep for a week. It's
Sure.
just kind of a wild ride, and I think we all love it, and that's why we do this.
Yeah, it was 10 consecutive shoot days. So it was
Wow. Yeah.
intense shoot. But that said, the thing that made my job, both as a producer and an actor, very easy is that Nicole was just, and you can see it in the footage, just like brought it to 11 in every take, even the subtle takes. Like it was just so easy to play off of. And there were so many times, even moments when I wasn't on screen, where I'm behind the monitor, with our DP Richard Trejo, where we're watching it and going, "Oh my God, this is like fire, dude!" So I'm so glad that people are getting a chance to see this film and see this performance, because Nicole, you knocked it out of the park, bro, straight up in
You
all
knocked it out of the
aspects.
park. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, for
you
real.
you both. I mean,
Yeah.
Hunter, your Caleb really portrayed a guy who, and in all honesty, I'm going to say I did like him right away. I thought he jumped a little bit too quick on the jealousy train, but I understood. But when you go on and you see how you're trying to take care of, Caleb's trying to take care of Elise, and he doesn't know what to do. So many people
So good.
around, so many people around, folks who are suffering from a mental trauma or whatnot are in that situation. And you played it very realistic. Like, that feeling of just helplessness comes through, and you do something, and then the person yells at you for doing something that you're trying to help. And then you're just like, well, crap, but wait, I was trying to help, and you're telling me I did something wrong because you're not as experienced as the person suffering from it. So I thought you did a great realistic portrayal too, and I think your two parts really, the dynamic between you two really is the heart of this movie, for me, because you're getting both sides of it and you feel for both people involved. That's the one thing is I think our villain is is not one of the two main characters. Hooray! So 10 shooting days. Yeah, that had to be intense. Now, being both producers, I imagine, was there a lot of pre-production work going into ahead of time, like how you're going to handle certain shots, where you're going to shoot and such? How much prep did you do for this, for such an intense shooting schedule?
We had a fair amount of prep. Now, granted, it was a fast from conception to
Sure.
shooting, but that said, our producing team, we've all done films together. Rob Diaz is a pro; he was our first AD. Pat Kiznadi, Frank Merle. Richard Trejo, our director of photography, Nicole and I have both worked with on multiple projects. So we had a fair amount of chemistry already, so we all kind of knew what we were signing up for. And Joe Rafa and
Mhm.
Angel Marrero also were pivotal in all of the production aspects. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go out to Philadelphia a couple of weeks prior to the shoot as well. And Nicole and I did some test shooting and location scouting, that kind of stuff, and kind of said, "Hey, we're gonna next month we're gonna shoot this damn movie." So no, it went fast, man. And like Nicole said earlier, I think when we wrapped that show, I think I slept for. I went on a family trip right after that, and I think I slept the whole time I was there. So yeah,
Like a whirlwind.
yeah, yeah.
But that's the joys of and the seems the standard in indie film. I think people don't realize that. You hear these other bigger productions go on for like a month or whatnot, and most indie films, I find when I talk to producers and such, 10 to 12 days maybe, and then
Oh,
maybe
12 would
maybe
be
maybe
great.
a weekend, but usually 10 to 12 is like what you've got because you're all dealing with talent who everybody's trying to get the most work you can, including yourselves, I'm sure,
Right.
so that you've got other schedules to coordinate and such. And I think, and that's why I love talking to indie filmmakers because I get the idea across how much work and energy
Mm.
you put into these things is insane. It is insanity. Now, the use of the dolls, Nicole, were any of those dolls yours from when you
They
were a kid?
they were all mine,
They
yeah.
were all yours.
They were all mine, or they were my
Uh-huh.
mom's, or they were my mom's mom's. And
Sure.
then I actually had this lovely lady. Her name's Teresa Daly. Her granddaughter was Frankie. She played the
Oh,
young
mhm,
Elise in it.
mhm.
She came over with boxes of dolls and she's like, I'd like to donate these. So we're very fortunate to we it was, the community just kind of came together and like really, really were rooting for us. So yeah,
Yeah,
I was looking for Elise right before we started, and I don't know where my dad put her, somewhere in the basement. I couldn't find it.
hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
I will say that the community really did rally behind this movie, and it was really special to be a part of, just because we had so many people doing favors for us and
mhm.
stopping by the set and dropping off food and all sorts of stuff. So it was nice to kind of shoot in a place that wasn't like, typical LA shoot where everybody says, "Okay, well, it'd be
Yeah.
$10,000 an hour to shoot at our bar," or whatever. It was like, "Hey, like, we're gonna come swing through. We're a movie crew. Oh, please, yeah, come over. Well, so it was a really nice experience. It made the shoot very enjoyable.
Everybody loves being involved in some way in a movie. Let's face it, if you mention it
For
to
sure,
Especially
for
someone.
sure.
especially people that don't come from, they have no idea
Right.
how it goes. And,
Mhm.
a lot of people are just like, wow, like I had no idea. And it was really cool to watch.
Yeah, yeah. And
Well,
Nicole's family was very hospitable to us and took good care of the crew.
We had people in
Um,
every
we
room. It
we we
was
took over the house for 2 weeks, and it was great.
it was lovely. A lot of heart, all heart, I'd say. All heart here.
well, and that comes. I think that comes through, and that makes your job in front of the camera or when you're doing it, I imagine, easier, especially as not only writers and actors, but being the producers. Because I've talked to a few producers, and man, that's a job. I mean, that's a whole entity of itself, and having a
Right.
community get around you and be able to contribute willingly and not have to, you know, pull teeth to get some support. Uh, did that help with making the rest of your job a bit easier? Like you could focus a little more on that because, the community just kind of naturally helped out.
Yeah, I think me and Hunter too, we'd like look at each other like, did that just happen? Like just it was like what's the word? Like symbiotic. I don't
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
just everything came together beautifully. And we're like, wow, like this is meant to be type thing. It does make your job a lot easier and smoother.
Sure. Oh, I imagine. And with the dolls, what I liked is how you used them. I mean, you're working on a very limited budget, obviously, and you use them in such a way that you still made them creepy, uh, even though they are doing like Chucky things. How do you approach that to, uh, give a character to an inanimate object like a doll? I mean, dolls are creepy. Let's face it. Most dolls are creepy, even the really cool ones. But how do you take the approach to that? Say when you're writing and also when you're planning out your shots in that.
We, in the beginning, I think before even the script came together, we were like, do we go Chucky style, or how do we do this with the dolls?
Mhm.
And we played around, and even on set we played around with, like, do we want them to move, do we want them not to move, what are we going to do here? So it's always a great set with Hunter and Richard, because we play, we're like, okay, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And they're like, let's try it, and we do, and it either works or it doesn't work, but we move forward on it, and it's very smooth process. And it's fun just to be able to just collaborate like that.
Yeah, and I think without getting into spoiler territory, the dolls, like you said, dolls are inherently creepy. So,
They really are.
finding out, like, I guess what they symbolize in this story, and people will go into a creepy doll movie with the preconceived notion of, oh, this is, going to be a Chucky
Yeah.
type thing, and our kind of goal was to not go down those types of tropes, but also still deliver a creepy doll movie. So. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always find it, even though seeing the doll move, I always find it creepier for when the doll is in one place, you look away and come back, and it's not there anymore.
Mhm.
The most effective, one of the most effective uses is still today of Poltergeist. For
Mhm.
years, the clown scene was the scary, was one of the scariest things for me ever. Is oh, it's there, and now it's not, and now it's under the bed and choking him, and
Oh
you're
yeah.
just like.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh man. And so, how you use them here with the close-ups and that, you give them a personality. And, I imagine that's also thanks to the help work of your DP as well, and that helping you. And it sounds like you've got a good relationship to where you can all be honest with each other as well if something works. How important is that when you're on a set to be able to have someone say, yeah, no, that's not going to work. That's going to kind of be crap. How
Yeah,
important is
yeah.
that?
Well, sometimes you gotta some ideas are good, some ideas aren't. But no, it's play and communication and creative
Mhm.
energy that intertwines is the recipe for a successful film, in my opinion. And like yeah, this one was tricky, but we knocked it out, man. I think. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. It's balancing energy and
Mhm.
playing with ideas. There were some ideas that we tried that worked great, that are incredible. There's some that we tried that are like, okay, maybe that wasn't worth the 30 minutes it took to set up that shot. But at the end of the day, what shows up on the screen is what matters, and I
And
think pretty
yeah.
pretty freaking solid. But yeah.
I think so too. And yet Robbie was great, and everything was scheduled out to a T. And it was nice to have the time to try that stuff, like we did. We never felt rushed. We never went over, we had a allotted amount of time, and we utilized it pretty good.
Yeah, I remember Trejo, our DP, was getting real frustrated with me at one point because I kept trying to do this stupid thing where the doll's running across the floor or something, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't think that made the cut, but I was adamant about it at the time. I'm like, no, this is gonna be great, and then in retrospect, I'm like, oh, that was probably pretty stupid, but you never know though. Who
You
knows,
don't, you really don't.
Yeah, yeah.
But the fact you had a little bit of that flexibility so you could try is a good thing. I think because when you're on a shoot or something, you could have an idea that you didn't plan for that ended up working really well.
Yeah.
I shot a student film for my final project, and I was shooting in a graveyard, and I had my shots planned and everything, and then saw this just huge, wonderful, ornate statue, and I'm like, I need to use that in a shot for something. And so
Yeah.
I kind of, talked to the talent that we shot it, and it worked, and ended up, making it into the film. But I can understand, so while it's good to hold to the script, I imagine it's good that you have that a little bit of a freedom to be creative, because you never know, once you get there, you might get inspired. Especially that
Yes.
location. You manage to keep things dark and creepy in areas and lit in others. And dark is hard to, I think, come across where you can still see everything.
Right.
How much of a challenge was that to keep that atmosphere, which I felt, maybe I'm off. You could let me know if I'm off, that you're kind of going for, of just this, when you're in the house itself, it's got a different vibe, a different atmosphere, and it seems to usually be dark, a lot of dark shadows in that, until Milo shows up, and then it's all sunny. Uh, how big of a challenge is that to get that so you can see everything yet keep it dark?
I think that's all Trejo.
Yeah.
I told him exactly what I wanted.
Mhm,
I was like, I see this, and I would send him shows or movies like
mhm,
with the lighting, and he's like, okay. And so every set I've been on with him, he just creates the world that I envisioned, or and I'm sure he does it with everybody else that is with them on the
mhm,
directing and everything, and you just get what you want. And then the collaboration comes in too, where you're like, do we want this dream sequence to kind of look like this? And everybody kind of puts in their thoughts, and
mhm.
it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. And that's filmmaking. It's all the pieces. And I came from just acting, so that's all I looked at was actors. And then I dabbled with writing, and then dabbled with producing, and then dabbled with directing, so I got to see all the parts. And I'm like and now I'm like obsessed with sound, like it's color, and now it's sound, and it's just really fascinating. And I want to piggyback on what you were saying earlier. It's like it gives you an environment to just keep learning and
Mhm.
learning and learning more.
Yeah, and I'll also, on top of Trejo just knocking it out of the park behind the camera, want to do a shout out to the post team, Stephanie Sheffield and Christopher Sheffield.
Yes.
Stephanie edited the film and Chris
Mm.
colored it, and I thought he did a uh, really cool job coloring the film to accent some of those shadows and give it this kind of like, almost kind of want to say like fantasy vibe at moments, like creepy fantasy vibe. So yeah, I thought that they executed Nicole's vision in a really, really strong way.
Well,
A fantastic team. Fantastic team.
Well, it gives the location its own character, because when you're outside, it's very bright and sunny and kind of, almost pastel, like urban type of, happiness. And then you get into the house, and then it's not. There's darks and shadows and creepy dolls. Uh,
Well, that's great because it was a beautiful house, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm glad that it came across as kind of creepy because it wasn't creepy in real life. It was a very, very nice house.
Oh man, this house looks too good. How are we gonna make it look creepy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just go dark with it.
Yeah.
But so to put this film together, did you do any crowdfunding, or was it through investors and that? Because I've heard many mixed stories about crowdfunding and campaigns, and so that's why I always like to ask the question to how was the film financed, if you don't mind me asking?
All
The
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 above.
Yeah, yeah.
All of the above.
The cool thing with this film is that it was several producers and people saying, "Hey, let's just make it happen." You know what I
Mhm,
mean? So we did do crowdfunding for certain aspects, but we didn't rely on that. We were going to make the movie with or without crowdfunding.
sure.
And that also made everybody really excited to be a part of it because the people that were on set were the people that put the movie together. Uh yeah, so it was kind
Yeah.
of like, six or seven of us all saying, "Hey, let's see if we can
Let's
pull
make
this
it.
thing together," and that's what we did. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, you.
I've had good experiences with the crowdfunding. It's been rewarding. I think I did GoFundMe for this one and GoFundMe for Drift.
Mhm.
And I've had good experiences, yeah. I don't understand a couple of them with all the different. I just want something easy because I'm not, I'm a little bit computer illiterate, but
Oh, no,
Yeah.
actually, GoFundMe is probably the good way to do it just straight because
yeah,
you see so many tiers in that for some campaigns and they can't make it or and then you get some people debating, well, now you have someone buying a role in a movie and there's some folks who are against that. And I mean,
right, right.
I've seen a lot of interesting discussions about crowdfunding, but GoFundMe would be great. Just like, hey, we're trying to make a movie, we need some help. Could you help us out? And
Yeah.
that, uh maybe we'll put your name into credits as a thank you. And everybody loves seeing their name in credits. Let's put it
Yeah. I
that
think
way.
somebody just like was like, "Oh, look, I made it," and it was just their name in the credits. I was like, "That's cute. I
That's
love
great.
that." Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Nicole, what would you say is one of your main influences for getting into this crazy business in general, acting or just and directing? Do you have any standout influences for you?
Um, I mean, there's tons of actresses' careers whom
Sure.
I've followed over the years and really would love, to follow in footsteps. And the directing stuff kind of just fell into my lap. I never had that ambition, but I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's fun. Acting's always my number one, but directing is a nice second. But I've been acting since I was little, like first
Hmm.
grade little. So
Sure.
I've just always loved it. And I was always doing theater. And it was really when I went to school where I didn't make any shows. And it was really disheartening. And I was like, I should
Sure.
maybe pick something else to do with the rest of my life. Maybe like something I'll make some money at. But I was cast in someone's thesis project, and it was my first taste of
Hmm.
film acting, and
Sure.
I loved it. I was like, oh yeah, this is more my speed. And yeah, 2009, I was like, I'm gonna do this as my career and make it my living. So
And,
then I
and
moved out to California in 2012.
and now you're directing films. And did your experiences acting help you with directing,
Of
communicating at
course.
least? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It really takes everything just that much further,
Hmm.
in the
Well,
work.
and probably helped you communicate with the actors as well.
Hmm.
A little.
Yes, yeah,
Uh, you
definitely.
and what about you, Hunter? Your influences for getting into this crazy business?
Oh man, similar story to Nicole. I've been acting since I was a wee little boy,
Hmm.
and my parents got me a little mini DV camera, probably in middle school,
Sure.
and I was the dude just running around making weird movies, cringe worthy movies with my friends. Um, yeah, so I studied acting in college and was the I would joke with all the film majors. This sounds kind of goofy, but I would joke with all the filmmakers. I'm like, I'm gonna make movies too, and they're like, you're just an actor, like I'm like, no, I'm just like wait and see, bro. Like, yeah, so I did all the student films in college. I didn't get cast in any plays either in college, Nicole. I did two shows my whole 4 years. And I think it was like one was like mandatory, like you had to do at least one play to graduate. So I'm like, somebody, please, I've done 50 student
Please,
films. I just
please.
need this credit or whatever. But yeah, so I've just always been involved in acting or filmmaking in
Sure.
some capacity. And
And
horror
look at
films.
us now.
And
Look at
look
us
at you
now.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Look at you. You got an impressive list of films under your belts and you're still, in the business, which a lot of people would stop after. I know a number of folks who they're like, no, I can't. I just can't anymore. But it's great that you're doing something that you love, and I think that comes across on screen in your projects when you're acting. I think you can tell when people are into it, just like in Porcelain, you can tell everybody's on board. I've been told, no, you can't tell. I'm like, no, you can kind of tell when someone's cashing it in. You can kind of tell when someone's like, yeah, I'm here for a day. Just give me my lines and I'll be on my way.
Yeah, yeah, that.
So, since it's horror, and you've both been involved in horror and such, you got a favorite horror movie, Nicole?
Okay, yes. Too many. But I love The Shining and
Oh,
I love
nice.
The
Mm.
Strangers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Strangers is an interesting one. You know, that's one that I never thought was going to quite take off like it has. Like there's still, they've got a new
They
one.
just did a new one,
Yeah, they
yeah.
did a
Yeah.
new.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. I'm so
But
excited.
that's one of those films where you don't expect it to be like a series or whatnot, but it just somehow strikes with people, and that's an awesome. And The Shining, yeah, The Shining for so many years,
Classic.
even today, you want to talk about trauma. The red rum scene to this day makes me squirm. I went to see the anniversary showing of it in the theater, and my friend was laughing at me when he was doing a little red rum, because I was squirming a little bit in my seat. Not as bad as when I was younger, but I'm like, that's creepy.
It's
Yeah.
unsettling, yeah. It really
Yes.
is.
And it's so simple, yet it's so effective, What'd
Mhm.
you think of Dr. Sleep, Nicole?
I loved it.
Oh, isn't
That's
it
so good. Yeah. So good.
Mike
Uh,
Flanagan has, I don't think, disappointed me.
Period.
He even helped make it a good Ouija board movie. So
I
I know.
watched I watched that Ouija board movie not knowing it was Mike Flanagan, and I'm like, why is this so good? Like, this
So
is crazy.
good.
And then I looked it up like three-quarters away in the movie. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, yeah, no duh. Like, it's
Duh.
like Ouija 2 or something. Like,
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Ouija to the Origins. It's a prequel, and I was watching it. I'm like, oh, I knew my buddy introduced me to Michael Flanagan with one of his first films, Absentia, which was really good. I'm like, this is really good. And then I've followed his you know career, and yeah, I'm watching Ouija, and you get the one scene with the girl with the creepy, you do a smash cut to where it's like they're doing something, and all of a sudden they cut, and she just got that really elongated face or whatever. She's like, very few films make me jump. That made me jump, and I literally said, "Damn it, Michael! Damn it! You got!" like,
Got me
I,
again.
I literally said that in the theater. There was no one else in the theater with me, but I was just like, "Damn it! I actually jumped for once." Oh, what about you,
Yeah, he's
Hunter?
doing it.
You got a favorite horror film?
Oh man. It's a trick question for me because my favorite movie of all time is Sleepaway Camp Part 2.
Oh, nice.
Which is my
Yeah.
but that's not a scary horror film. That's just a fun,
Oh,
campy
yeah.
slasher. But my favorite horror film, the one that I think is personally the scariest, is the original Black Christmas.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I watch it every
Yeah.
Christmas Eve for the last 15 years, and
Hmm.
it's just so unnerving and so simple yet so beautiful and just so creepy without being like gratuitous or
Hmm.
anything. Just a really well done picture.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good pick too. It's always hard when people ask you that. That's why I asked that, because usually people ask me, "What's your favorite movie?" And I go, "Well, what genre?
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
style? What day is it?" I mean, it's it's one of
Can I
those.
pick like an old one, a new one,
Yeah.
top five.
Can I do top five? Well, and I
Yeah, it's
imagine
so
it.
hard.
And imagine you're movie lovers. You also make films, but you're movie lovers, so you watch a lot of movies in your free time. So possibly, and you're like, well, I'm seeing new stuff all the time, so it always
Mhm.
changes. Though I'm with you, Hunter. One of my favorite just films is Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, great movie. I just rewatched that a couple weeks ago. Great movie. Way better than I remember it being. I just
Yeah.
rewatched it like a month ago, and I was blown away by how rad that movie was.
I actually got a chance to interview the guy who played Joey in it, Patrick Miller. I got a chance to talk to him about that film, and that was a lot
Oh
of fun to
man, I bet.
talk to him about it,
Awesome.
because being a huge
Mhm.
fan, I got it on VHS too. So
I
for
found it
me,
on VHS a month ago. And that's when I plugged that in immediately. I was hyped to find that.
so
That's amazing.
but as far as like actual scary horror films, for me, maybe not too scary, but ones that I could go back to and watch a lot. One of them is Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah.
and the
Yes.
original and
Mhm.
Psycho, and those may be a little tropish or cliche, but you look at those films and how well they're crafted, and how many filmmakers have duplicated that or been
Sure.
influenced by those films, especially Hitchcock. I mean, you watch
Mm.
some Hitchcock and you're just like, oh, I see Steven Spielberg. Oh, I see, Tarantino. I see Michael Flanagan in it. And that's why I love movies. And I think people should look not only at classic films to see their influences, but also new films like yours, like Porcelain, because it's obviously made by folks who also love the genre, which I think comes across as well because as you we opened a bit with handling mental illness and horror, sometimes it's handled incorrectly. Like it's made its own villain in a way to where, rather than the origin of where that illness may came from, it's actually the villain itself. And I think that's
Mm.
sometimes, or it's mishandled. I've seen it mishandled. One in particular, I love Kevin Bacon, don't get me wrong. And I love, but there was the movie The Darkness, which had a kid at the center of the movie, which was who was autistic, and I have a friend who has a autistic son, a very long time friend, a great kid, love. But the portrayal of what they had in there for the condition of autism was just off base
Mm.
to the
Yeah.
Mm.
point to where it kind of gets you angry, So,
Sure.
it's great that you were very aware of how to handle it, and I think you handled it very well with Porcelain. If there's one thing that you hope folks kind of come away from Porcelain with, what would it be? We'll start with you, Hunter.
Oh, that's a great question. From a from a filmmaker perspective, I hope that they see a really cool character-driven horror film
Hmm.
that might not be what they're expecting, but hopefully is as entertaining and freaky as they are hoping for watching a horror film. Thematically, though, I think that uh, what I hope people get out of it is that I guess kind of going back to what I was saying before, that like, this can happen. This happens to real people, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's a situation that can really come out of nowhere, and
Hmm.
going to my own mental health history, you can go from 0 to 100 almost
Yeah.
instantaneous without any like warning bells or any sort of
Hmm.
thing. And if you aren't even aware that that's happening, then things can snowball quickly.
Sure.
Mhm.
So I think that it's just a statement that, like, hey, like, just be aware not only of your own emotions and your own feelings and your own thoughts, but also the people around you. And
Hmm.
like I was saying before, that, like, people like Caleb exist. People, you were just bringing your own personal anecdotes. Like, there are people around that also go through this type of
Hmm.
thing. And yeah, so I don't know if that was a long-winded
No,
answer, but
no
That was
worries.
but
good. That was
That's
good.
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Nicole,
Yeah.
how about you?
I agree with 100% with Hunter. And also, just that strong message for mental health and awareness and, just letting people know you're not alone. And I know when you don't feel good, it's hard to commit to getting the help, but there is help out there. And if you can't do it, if you're able to communicate to others around you, your loved ones, like, I need help, like, that's huge. And that's not always easy to do, but it's you're not alone, and there is help out there. And um you might be struggling a little bit, but eventually you'll things will align for you, and you'll get the right care that you need.
That's great. And if nothing else, get rid of the creepy dolls in your house. That'll help.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
that doll, can I just tell you a quick
Yeah,
story? That
sure.
doll, like, my parents, I don't know what they were thinking, but it's like it was the time where you had to get catalogs to buy, your school
Yeah.
clothes and this and that. But they're like, okay, we're going to get you your my twin doll, and you fill out all this information. And that came, I was like, this is creepy. Why would you get a doll that looks like me? And she sat in the corner on her little bench and just faced my bed. And I would just
Just
sit
staring.
there. And I'm like, she's moving, she's blinking, she's doing stuff. And eventually she didn't last long she didn't last long. I picked her up. I took her whole bench and I put her in the back room. It was my dad's office in our house, and closed the door behind her. And that's where she resided until probably she went in the attic till probably I moved in 2021. So
Oh, that's great. And yeah, that's why dolls are creepy because they don't blink, they stare at you, and the shadows in that about anything will play with your mind, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm done. I'm done. You're
yeah,
moving.
good.
Even if you're not moving, you're moving, and you got to
Yes.
get out of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure. So, Porcelain is out on Prime Video right now. Is there any plans for physical release, or what's next for your film? If you could say,
Hopefully.
if
So
not, that's fine.
Yeah.
I know how that goes too. If you can't say,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine. No,
There is big porcelain news coming.
okay, cool.
In terms of other platforms that will be picking up the film. I don't think I'm permitted to say it
No
at this
worries. No,
point,
you don't have
unfortunately.
to.
But the Amazon rental is just the tip of the iceberg.
Sure.
It's we're hoping to get it in front of a lot more eyes. And we're also available in the UK on I guess Sky
Bye.
pay-per-view.
Sky,
So
yeah.
yeah, which is kind of cool.
Cool.
So but yeah, there will be some big porcelain announcements a little later this
This
year.
year.
And is there a place where they can keep up with the porcelain news at all?
We have a Facebook page and we have an Instagram page.
Excellent. And I'll put links to that in the body description of this podcast. And what's next for you, Nicole, from here? I mean, you've got your film in the can and out in the world now. And as one director told me, well, it's no longer mine. So
Right.
it's the world. So what's next for you?
Um, to be determined.
Okay.
Yeah, I might dabble in the documentary world. Something crossed my desk recently, so I'm kind of very beginning stages of that. But
Cool.
yeah,
Very cool. And what about you, Hunter?
lots.
Oh man, no.
So
A movie that I shot several years ago is premiering at the end of this month that Nicole is actually also in, called Tarabella. So
Cool.
it'll be the first public screening of that ever, which I'm excited about, and then another one in the chamber called It's Fate, that we're wrapping up post on it right now. So
amazing.
yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastic. And you got socials as well. If you want to send those to me, I'll include those here as well on the with the podcast where people can keep up with your individual's work. And yeah, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time to talk. And check it out. Porcelain is on Prime Video, and more big news coming. And I appreciate it. And yeah, support indie horror, folks, because that's where a lot of the cool stuff is coming from right now. So
Dude, and thank you, Mark, for
Yeah,
taking the
thank you
time
so
too
much.
to not only watch the film but to talk to us, and thank you
yeah.
for supporting our previous works in the past, and all
Oh
the
yeah.
indie film only works if people take the time to watch it. So I really
Well,
genuinely appreciate it, man. Thank
well,
you.
Thank
well,
you. Thank
well,
you so
thank you.
much.
Thank you. Yeah, I fell in love with indie film when my good friend Glenn said, "Hey, did you know there was an indie film festival in Oshkosh?" Hunter, you're from Wisconsin, so you know where and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, I didn't even know Wisconsin had film festivals at the time. You know,
Wow.
that was 12 years ago when he said that, and so I went to Oshkosh. A filmmaker, Wisconsin filmmaker, John Pata ran it at the time. He went on to he's making films now. He kind of handed that off to someone else, but met filmmakers. I'm like, holy crap, you know, being a cinephile, I'm like, I'm getting to meet filmmakers, even if they're indie filmmakers, and talking movies and sharing that passion. And I just fell in love with indie cinema, and that's where I changed my focus because there's so much talent. Like you find folk here and so many others out there who may not get the exposure, or even people are aware because, oh, it's not a big budget or Hollywood, so they don't pay attention. And they should, because you get
Yeah.
interesting films that explore things that Hollywood really nowadays is not taking a chance on. So
Right.
that's my soapbox. I'll shut up now. Thank you, everybody, Nicole and Hunter, and everybody. Check it out there. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks
Mark.
so much,
Appreciate you,
Mark.
brother.